When trying to do dosage calculations, you have three options to accomplish this. First, you can do dimensional analysis. Second, you can do a proportion. And third, you can do a formula. Now, all three of these will lead you to the same answer if you do it correctly. I would suggest that you look at each way and do the way you like the most or the way that makes the most sense. Now, unless the way you chose does not work, meaning you keep getting the wrong answer repeatedly or something doesn't make sense, I would highly recommend not to switch between methods. Stick with one way if you can, because trying to switch between methods is a surefire way of always getting it wrong. So let's look at an example of a dosage calculation all three ways. So I'm going to put it out in words and I'm going to give the label here so you can see what's going on. The licensed prescriber orders phenobarbital 45 milligrams orally 2 times a day. Phenobarbital elixir 20 milligrams per 5 milliliters is available. How many milliliters will the nurse administer? So if you weren't given this availability here, you would have to look on the label. You can see here the label contains the availability, 20 milligrams per 5 milliliters. So that's one way you can look at it and find it on the label. Now let's do this by dimensional analysis. So we need to get milliliters. How many milliliters will the nurse administer? So we're going to take our available, or 20 milligrams per 5 milliliters, and we're going to write it as 5 milliliters over 20 milligrams. Now we're going to multiply it by the unit that will get rid of the milligrams because we want only milliliters left over. And what we have here is 45 milligrams. So we're going to multiply it by 45 milligrams over 1. And now we're just going to do the arithmetic. The milligrams cancel each other out, and nothing else will, so that's good. Now we're going to do 5 times 45, which is going to give us 225, and the unit, which is milliliter, over 20 times 1, which is 20. Now we're just going to reduce down 225 over 20, and that's going to give us 11.25 milliliters. But typically when we have liquid medication like this, we like to round to the nearest tenth. So we're going to round up this 2 to a 3. So our answer is going to be 11.3 milliliters of phenobarbital. Now that's dimensional analysis. Let's do the proportion method. Now proportion, we have to write it kind of similar with some ratios. So again, we're using the same numbers, but we're going to write it in a slightly different way. So we had our available, which was 20 milligrams per 5 milliliters. So we write it as 20 milligrams ratio, use a colon, 5 milliliters. And then for the proportion part, we use double colon. And now again, we have milligrams first, then milliliters. So we're going to put what we have left, which was 45 milligrams, and our unknown milliliters, because that's what we need to do. Now, a proportion is a little bit hard to solve, so what we're going to do is we're going to write it in fraction form. So this is going to become 20 milligrams over 5 milliliters equals 45 milligrams over, and I'm just going to use x because I need to know what I'm solving for. So I'm going to multiply the x over here, I'm going to multiply the 5 over here, and I'm going to take the 20 under here. So what's that going to look like? I'm going to get x equals 45 milligrams times 5 milliliters. So I moved the 5 over here, the x over here, and now I'm going to move the 20 underneath. So 20 milligrams. And here again, the milligrams cancel out. And I'm just going to do 45 times 5 and then divide by 20, which is going to be the exact same number I got before. Rounding it is going to give me I'll put it down here, 11.3 milliliters. So get the same answer, except this time I did it as a proportion instead of using dimensional analysis. Now last is the formula method. Now the formula method, obviously you need to know the formula, and it is the desired or ordered divided by the available multiplied by the quantity. And we're just going to plug everything in. Now in ours, we had an order of 45 milligrams. We had an available of 20 milligrams. And we had a quantity of 5 milliliters. So we're just going to plug everything in here to get our dosage. So it's going to be the order, which is D, the desired, so 45 milligrams over the available, which is 20 milligrams times the quantity, 5 milliliters. Again, the milligrams cancel out. 45 times 5 divided by 20 is going to be the exact same thing we did in the last two, which is going to ultimately give us, rounded to one decimal place, 11.3 milliliters. So whichever way you would like to do it, dimensional analysis first, the proportion method second, or the formula method third, it will all give you the exact same answer. I again recommend pick one way that you like and stick with it, and don't gravitate or don't jump back from one to the other. Just kind of stick with one and do that each time, and you'll always get the right answer.